Welcome to Storytime with Chris. Today I'm going to be telling you about myself. I will be telling you a few stories, answering a couple questions, and revealing the results of some Instagram polls. All right, let's get this thing started. So, one thing that I haven't really done with this podcast is introduce myself. I've told a few stories, I've given my football takes, but I haven't really, I feel like I haven't, like maybe you guys don't know me quite as well. And I wanted to throw this out here. Because this is going to be one of the final episodes of the first season of Storytime with Chris. I'm excited for the upcoming things that I have planned. I'm going to be welcoming a new member of the family any day now. So that's exciting. And I feel like this, depending on when the baby comes, this episode could be the last episode of the season, or there might be one more. We'll see. It all depends on when she's ready to be here. So, with that being said, I thought this would be a good second to last episode or last episode of the first season. So that's why we're doing this today. And we're going to start off with, I have quite a few questions here actually that I'm going to be answering. So hold on tight. I have no idea how long this episode will be, but let's get this thing started. All right, the first question that I have, and this is a hard-hitting question. Well, it's not a hard-hitting question, but I have a hard-hitting answer. What's your biggest accomplishment? When I saw this question, for some reason, one thing came to mind, and it's kind of really stuck with me since then. And I think most people, when they think of their biggest accomplishment, they think of a professional accomplishment, or becoming a parent, or owning a house, landing their dream job, all sorts of things, winning some sort of award. But the first thing that I thought of was overcoming mental health issues. I feel like at some point everyone has their own struggles with, mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression, or, there's all sorts of things that people deal with all the time. And one thing that kind of hit me last year at a concert is one of my buddies, Manuel, told me how in the past, like I always seemed to be kind of down, depressed, just not the highest, not living my best life essentially. And it's funny because I was doing a lot of things that I enjoyed during that time. And I think I was doing a lot of those things because I felt like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I knew who I was or where I was going in life. And a lot of times I did feel pretty depressed. Now, I'm not going to say I was like horribly depressed, not to the point where things got really bad. But, I was on a baseline, let's say there's like a middle average baseline where most people are. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but not, just like an average, not happy, not depressed. On that scale during that time, I think I was, like mid-low, just not entirely happy and just really questioning like where I was going in life. And now I feel like my baseline is definitely more at the mid-level and for me, I never really go back down. There are things that definitely bring me anxiety. There are things that I question about myself and, where I'm going in life, mostly professionally, mostly with career stuff. But, I just I'm not in a darker place anymore. I'm much happier. And of course, it definitely helps, having an awesome and loving, supportive wife like I do. She's definitely helped me kind of, it sounds bad, like maybe, I don't know if that sounds good, like being at the mid-level of baseline, like not crazy happy, but yeah, that sounds weird. I am happy. But I think what I'm trying to say is, my lows are no longer low. My lows are now at the mid-level. And, I have waves of happiness. And, the thing that brings me down is definitely just those same questions that I had about myself before, but now I'm much more sure of myself, and there is more of a confidence that I have in doing a podcast. It definitely requires some confidence, and especially when I feel like most people don't like the sound of their own voices. And I do all my own editing. I create my own clips. And so when I'm going back, I have to listen to my voice over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, this is enough for me. But just not having, that depression nagging over me is kind of what I feel like is my biggest accomplishment. It's not something I don't ever have to worry about at this point. And I hope people find ways to overcome theirs, because I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. For me, like I said, having my wife has definitely helped. Having my dog, he's my best friend. And when she's not, when Jen's not here, and I'm either working at home or just home alone, then I've usually got my dog with me. Dogs are man's best friend, so that has definitely helped. And just doing things that I enjoy, doing things that I love, and being in a loving home with an awesome partner is extremely helpful for me. And I think that it makes my accomplishment big, because I was, my baseline was low, and now I feel great. Honestly, I just don't ever really get sad, and I'm able to feel genuine happiness, and it's not, a masked happiness, if that makes sense. So maybe I should have written down more of my thoughts, because I'm kind of spitballing on that question. But that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that. So I'm wanting to start a podcast with a friend. How did you get started? Well, I'll start by saying that I'm not the greatest podcaster in the world, but I have learned a lot of things during the process. Originally, I also planned on doing this podcast with a friend, but he's got a job where, he works crazy hours and just doesn't, when we do have time together, I usually want to go get coffee with him or get food, just hang out. I don't want to, your podcast can definitely seem like work sometimes. And so I don't want to, force him to do even more work when when we don't really get to hang out as often as we used to. And that's just a part of being adults. As you get older, you're going to have less time to do stuff with your friends, especially when you start moving up in careers or you have a traveling job and things like that. So anyway, that's getting off track. I'd recommend starting with a good quality microphone. I feel like good high quality audio is very important for a podcast. It's one of those things that draws people in. And so I definitely recommend it, especially if you're someone like me who's a little bit soft spoken, and having a microphone can help boost your voice and help you be heard. There are a lot of good options out there. I would recommend, you do some research on that. There are some options where you can connect directly to your computer, whether it's by USB or, the highest quality mics usually require like what's it called? Soundboard or something like that. So, that's the highest quality. They also have microphones that connect to your phone, whether it's through Bluetooth or whatever. I would just recommend having a good, something that helps your voice be clean and crisp. I've also heard that if that's not an option for you, there are some apps that some people use to record their podcast. There are a lot of good phones out there as well, where their microphones, maybe they're not quite the highest level of quality, but they are good, really good still, and people will still enjoy listening to those. I have a decent mic. I'm using a JLab Talk Pro mic. I actually have two of them. One is, if I have a guest on the podcast, then they have a microphone for themselves. I do like this one because it has multiple directions. So, you can have, there's a setting where you just listens to the person in front of it. It's got an ambient setting where it listens to your environment around you. It has like an interview setting where you can have one person on one side and another person on the other, and it listens to those. It's omnidirectional, I believe. And what's the other option? I don't know what the last option is. But this mic goes, the first time I bought it, it was like $120. And then I found it on sale on Amazon for $50. So I personally like the quality of the mic. If you're listening to this, then you can determine if you like the quality of the mic as well. JLab also has some cheaper options. I don't think they have quite the same settings, but I personally haven't had any issues with the JLabs. I also have JLab earbuds. They kind of hurt my ears. I think they kind of, maybe this is too much information. They kind of scarred my ears a little bit. But they have good quality sound. So just saying. Anyway, another key to having a podcast is planning. This is something that I struggle with and I'm still working on, but maybe you'll be better at it than I am. When you listen to big podcasts, they usually have a schedule. They release consistently. They have episodes recorded in advance, and you know exactly when they're going to drop. Having your topics ready beforehand is a good idea. You don't have to necessarily rehearse it helps sometimes. But if you have the topics in the back of your mind before recording, it can definitely help you, especially if you've had those thoughts flowing through your head already. Usually I take a few notes for myself beforehand, and I reference those. Unless you're doing a scripted podcast, I think I've found that people generally prefer a more natural, spontaneous sound and not listening to someone who's obviously reading. I have two more pieces of advice. The first is something that is in your control, mostly. And the second one is not always possible, but it can be helpful. Have fun. Your podcast may not always be perfect, but you can still make it enjoyable. There are so many podcasts out there that, it's going to be very difficult to break through and become, this huge podcast where you make a lot of money. And this is just how my brain works, and yours may work differently, but I don't look at this as a second job or even something that will make any money. I do it for my own enjoyment and because there are things that I want to share and ideas that I want to bring to life. So I recommend you do the same. Again, you have your own goals, you have your own reason for wanting to do the podcast. But I always recommend having fun with it because that's what matters the most. The last part is not always possible, but it is very helpful. And that is having a designated producer. Yeah, having a designated producer is a great asset. This is a person who usually listens in during the recording. They can do research during the recording. They can help correct errors on the fly. They might give you reminders and ensure that everything is working properly. This person a lot of times also helps to edit the podcast. They create clips, sound bites, and all sorts of other stuff. I don't have that luxury. I do all my own work. I created my logos, graphics. I edit, research, create thumbnails, and do all the aspects of production on my own. Having someone who can do all that stuff for me would definitely help. It'd help, one thing if you're trying to grow your podcast is consistently posting on social media, having active engagement. That's always tough, especially when you're trying to avoid social media. And that's something that I've just learned from having my own photography page and all that. You got to constantly be putting stuff out there to gain followers, gain engagement, and have your voice heard. So having another person would definitely help with that, but I know how to do it and I prefer to do it myself, especially because I can't afford to pay someone else to do it for me. I have had to teach myself a lot of new things like editing, some sound production, some video editing stuff that I never knew before. And there are a lot of resources out there where, you can learn and you can essentially learn on YouTube how to start your own podcast and how to edit it and do all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I've done. I do all my own work and it is very time consuming. It is almost like a second job, but I enjoy it a lot and I prefer to do my own stuff if I can. But if I do get to the point where this podcast makes enough money for me to pay someone, I definitely will. Because, if my podcast is that big, I think having another person help is crucial and will save me time and effort and make things more efficient. So I hope this was all helpful. It's a lot of information, and I hope this gives you some insight. These are some of the things that I thought of before I started the podcast and a few things that I learned along the way. But I say just go for it, Make a plan, figure out your schedule, have fun with it, have a quality, just make sure your voice is good quality. You don't want to sound like you're underwater or you're talking on the phone. Although occasionally you may have guests where you can tell they're on the phone or on a Zoom call or whatever. That happens and that's fine. But ultimately, I think having a good sounding voice the majority of the time is really critical and that makes people want to listen more. So yeah, again, these are just my thoughts. I hope this helped you in some way. Let me know if you have any other questions. Hit me up on Instagram or in the comments and I'm more than happy to help and answer any other questions you might have about it. Favorite Taylor Swift song? Okay. When I saw this, I didn't have an immediate answer. And so I went and did some research. And I went through every single Taylor Swift album. There's 10 billion of them. And I finally figured out what my favorite Taylor Swift song. and that is Now That We Don't Talk. I think it's the re-recorded version. And the reason why this song is my favorite is because it's the shortest Taylor Swift song. So there you go. My favorite Taylor Swift song, Now That We Don't Talk. What made you fall in love with Jen? Oh man, there are so many things. I mean, she is unlike anyone else that I've ever met. Her personality, she's got, well, that wind is crazy. She's got her own little sense of humor. She's very funny. She's very kind-hearted and sweet. Even before I met her, I knew she was going to be a good, well, even before I met her, before I married her, I knew she was going to be a good mom because she'd always talk about her nieces and nephews, and it was obvious how much she loved them and cared for them. And, I knew when the time came, she would be a really good mom. She, of course, is beautiful. She has the most beautiful eyes that I've ever seen. They're very unique. They're green, which is a very rare color. And I just remember, looking into them and knowing that she was the one. The story that I tell people that made me fall in love. So we worked together at a credit union branch, and we'd always flirt with each other, or at least I would flirt with her. And she just was always herself, and she was funny. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just unique. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it. I mean, she is unique, but that's not the exact word I'm looking for. She just wasn't like anyone else that I've ever met before, and she's not like anyone else that I've ever met before. I tell people that the moment that I knew I wanted to marry her was when she ate a banana like corn on the cob. Still so funny to me. It's just like little things like that she does that are so quirky, and just, I love that about her. When we were first going out, I think one of the things that I just wanted to get to know her better. And just, even though she was mostly being herself at work, not afraid to be funny or weird, I knew there was, something else to her. And so over time, we eventually got to know each other better. I got to just know who she was and why she became the way she is. And I think that's kind of what really made me fall in love with her was, of course she was attractive to me, and she was also a good kisser. She's a really good kisser. But I think ultimately, I liked her a lot, but once I got to really know her is when I fell in love with her and got to, kind of break through her shell. And when she was able to open up to me, I knew she was the one. And it's just awesome to see how far we've come, and soon we're going to be expecting our child. It's just crazy. Hopefully that answers your question. What is your favorite place to travel? This is an easy answer. It is Moab. My wife and I, for the last few years, every April/May, we make a trip down to Moab. This year, I don't think we're planning on doing that, just because we're going to have like a 2-month-old, and Jen is going to be a few weeks postpartum. So we're going to push that back to sometime in the fall, I believe, when Moab's a little bit cooler. But I just love everything about Moab. It's got great camping, great hiking trails, national parks. I've actually never been to the LaSalle Mountains, but that's something I want to add to the list when we go down to Moab. We've done most of the national parks and state parks down there. The town itself is really cool, and there's a lot of good eats. And I just love the vibe of Moab. I couldn't live down there because the summers would be incredibly hot, and I hate the heat. But I do like visiting I've been there all sorts of seasons. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite place. I've had a lot of good memories down there with friends, Jen, and we've even brought the dog, Flynn, although he isn't allowed in the national parks. But one thing that I really hope we get to do is take my family down there. I think it'd be really cool if my parents and siblings could come down to Moab with us, because I think they would really enjoy it. And it's one of my favorite towns, and it's got everything you really want. And so yeah, that's definitely number one. Okay, well, this episode is looking like it might be a little bit longer than I was anticipating and wanting it to be, so I'm going to try to get through these a little bit faster. Okay, what would your perfect day be like? Okay, perfect day. Start off waking up about 8 o'clock, going to get breakfast. I mean, honestly, anywhere, any decent diner. This also includes Village Inn, so go ahead and judge me if you want. But just a decent diner where I can get my favorite breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, hash browns, bacon, sausage, toast, coffee, and orange juice. That is definitely my favorite breakfast. It's one of my favorite meals, so we got to start off with that. What would we do after that? I think I would want to go, let's see. I think it'd be fun to do like a little mini tour. We'd probably be in Salt Lake area. So do a little tour around the valley of some of my favorite coffee shops, favorite places, memorable places that I've been to, relive some of those memories. Maybe go to a park, just hang out, relax, hammock, get some lunch. What would we do for lunch? What's my perfect lunch? The last part of my day includes hiking, so I don't want a super heavy lunch. You know what? When we're at the park, we'll have a picnic. We'll have the dog there as well. Have a picnic with just, maybe some salads, some sandwiches, nothing too crazy. And of course, my wife will tag along. We might have family and friends. My family and Julander particularly join us for breakfast and at some of the coffee shops. But yeah, from there, I think we would make our way up to probably Big Cottonwood. The dog, Flynn, would be allowed. They would make an exception for me that day so he could enjoy these hikes as well. We would do some of my favorite hikes before eventually going up to one of my favorite spots at the top of the mountain where we will set up camp. For dinner, we'll do probably burgers over the fire, some s'mores, and yeah, just hang out and enjoy the wilderness and sit by the fire for hours until the day's over. I think that pretty much sums up my perfect day. I was also trying to keep it kind of realistic. There might be a concert in there at some point. I don't know if that's doable with no, it's probably not doable. Concert would be the night before the perfect day. I don't know if that counts. Anyway, that's my perfect day. Kind of, at least off the top of my head. I haven't really had a chance to think about this answer, so. All right. Most exciting part of becoming a dad. I think it's exciting to just have this little, our new little best friend who we're going to be able to watch grow up. We're going to create memories with her and any future kids. There are going to be lots of small moments, I'm sure, lots of big moments. I'm excited to obviously meet her, just spend time with her, cuddling, watching her take her first steps, saying her first words. And it's just, I don't know, it's like a new chapter that we get to help write for the first few years, and eventually she'll start becoming more and more independent, at least hopefully. No, I'm sure she will, and eventually she may have some siblings that'll join along, but I'm just excited for that, to teach her the things that I know and to hopefully raise child who will grow up to be successful and happy and can learn from my mistakes in life I'm just excited for all of it. I don't know what else I can add to that, but I'm just excited to see how this story writes itself, and any way I can contribute I will, and yeah, that's what is exciting for me. What kind of dog do you have? We have one dog. His name is Flynn. He's a St. Bernard and Poodle mix. Although my wife believes that he may potentially, instead of being a St. Bernard, is a, what's the other dog? Bernese Mountain Dog. I don't know if I see that. You can definitely tell he's a poodle. I think in his eyes a little bit I can see the Bernard. He's got a long snout. I don't know. He's super cute though, and he's a good dog. He's extremely smart. He basically potty trained himself. He does some interesting things. Like when he needs to go outside, he will bring a toy, a shoe, which he only goes after. So I had some gym shoes. They're black and green, and I've had those shoes since probably high school. So they're gym shoes. They're probably a little bit smelly and stuff. And he always went after those. And eventually, just because I used them for so long, they started falling apart. And I decided, you know what, Flynn, those are your shoes now. Do whatever you want with them. And most dogs not most dogs, but when dogs get get on shoes. They chew them up, completely destroy them. Flynn, he chews on them, but he doesn't cause any damage. He just it's like a teething toy. Like he just chews on them. He licks it. He carries it around with him. Well, carries one at a time, but he doesn't really touch any other shoes that we have. It's like these are his specific shoes. And going back to him potty training himself, whenever he needs to go out, he'll grab a blanket, a shoe, well, his own blanket, his own pillow, his shoes, toy, and he'll make us go to the door with him. He'll make us take the toy from him, and then he'll go outside. It's like, I mean, my wife, she said the only thing she did when she was potty training him, because she was working at home when he was a puppy, is she would take him out every 30 minutes to pee, give him a treat when he did, and then somehow eventually he figured out that he can just bring us stuff to tell us that he needs to go outside. So a little bit of a long-winded answer to what kind of dog do you have, but that's him. He's a good dog, silly, loves playing ball, and I'm excited to see him with our baby. I think that'll be really cool. What's the worst date you've ever had? Oh boy, this is you know what? This is a long story. This podcast is going a little bit long, so I'm going to have to answer this on a whole different, you know what? That might be a good separate entire podcast episode, is the worst dates that I've ever been on. So apologize, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. Dream job. My dream job ultimately is to work for myself. I haven't figured out in what capacity yet, but if that doesn't work out for me for whatever reason, I think I'd enjoy doing something outdoors or even something involved with football. I've always considered becoming a coach. I think that would be awesome. Or even at some point moving up to becoming a professional photographer for a team. I think that would be really cool. So those are some of the ideas for my dream job. My dream job has changed lots over the years. So, all right. So those are all the questions that I have. At least at this point. Let me double check Instagram real quick. Yeah. Ooh, I get a free entree from Cafe Rio. Okay. Anyway, let's get to the polls that I asked on Instagram. There's a specific reason why I asked these questions or put out these polls. The first one was, what is your favorite food out of these 4 options? Tacos, pizza, burgers, and chicken sandwiches. Those are just 4 of my favorite foods. So tacos got 20% of the votes. Pizza got the majority of the votes at 40%. Burgers, 33%. Chicken sandwiches, 7%. So for pizza, since that one won, I'm going to tell you my favorite pizza place in Utah. And it is the Pie Hole in downtown Salt Lake. Pie Hole is, I believe, New York style pizza. So you can get it by the slice. You can also order it entirely, which I did not know about until a few years ago. But they have some really good pizza. My go-to there is the potato bacon with Louisiana Crystal hot sauce. It is just an unmatched combo. And they had a new pizza last time that I tried. I don't remember what it's called because they're constantly switching the types of pizzas and ingredients and stuff. But whatever pizza I had last time was actually even better than the potato bacon. So I really don't remember what that slice was called, but I got to go back there soon. So that's my favorite pizza place in Utah. It's great for on the go. And it's great. I've been there at 3 a.m. I've been there before concerts. My buddy Chris Julander and I went to Fall Out Boy, which was at the Delta Center. We walked from the Pie Hole to the Delta Center, and it's great. I love the Pie Hole. All right. The second question I asked was the best season: spring, summer, fall, winter, in case you don't know your seasons. Spring, it was at 20%. Summer was at 20%. Fall was at 60%. And winter, 0%. So people hate winter. Fall, I would agree, is also my favorite season. The fall is just, it's a beautiful time of year. You've got beautiful fall colors. I feel like the air is nice and crisp during the fall time usually. Football season is associated with the fall time, at least for me. And it's just like a nostalgic time, honestly. It's time to, get your last minute things done before the snow hits, before it gets way too cold to be outside all the time. And I think that people are right to think fall is the best. I mean, spring and summer are great too. And I love winter as well. But I think I just have the most memories associated with fall. I love the fall vibe. It's flannel season, coffee season, hot chocolate season, and that's when the holidays kind of start rolling around. You get Halloween, Thanksgiving. So yeah, fall time definitely is up there. Football, of course. Coolest animal: moose, bear, wolf, eagle. These are just 4 of my favorite native. Well, there are some wolves in Utah, but I didn't want to put deer. I don't know, deer just aren't that cool to me. So moose 20%, bear 20%, wolf 53%, and eagle 7%. It's funny because at some point or another, besides eagle, moose, bear, wolf were considered my favorite animal. And I think for a long time, wolf is the animal I'm most associated with. And sometimes I still do. But for me, moose is the scariest of those 3 animals. And they are intimidating, and I have lots of respect for them. Wolves would be the scariest if they're in groups. But a single wolf, I'm not as scared of. Pack of wolves, yeah, I'm terrified. But single-handedly, like one-on-one, the moose is the least I would want to see. Bears, I still haven't seen a bear in the wild. I would really love to, as long as it wasn't a surprise. I would love to photograph a bear, and bears are just so cool. And for some reason, I have associated the bear with Flynn. Flynn's middle name is Bear because he looked like a little bear when he was a puppy. And when he grows out his hair or hops up on the counter, he looks like a bear. So I think it's appropriate for him. But I've also associated bear with our daughter that's coming. For some reason, I bought her a little bathrobe and had bears on it. Well, it's like a little bear hood, has like bear ears, and so she will look like a bear. I think I can't remember if we bought bear towels, but that's just an animal that for some reason I've just associated with her. She's like our little teddy bear, and like my animal when I was a baby was the lion, but I think for her is a bear. So yeah. Wolves, like I said, I think I associated the most with myself for a long time, and I think I still do. Wolves are cool because you can be a lone wolf and you could be really successful, you can survive, and sometimes you want to be a lone wolf, but also you have a pack that you sometimes can go to unless you're exiled. And that's something that I've always found interesting about wolves. And that's where dogs originated from, is wolves. And yeah, as you've gotten older, now our family is our little pack. But I think we're also very strong individuals as well. And I think that's why I think a wolf out of those animals is still the coolest to me. All right, number of tattoos. Second to last poll question. 0, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, or 10 plus. I guess okay. 0 had the most at 47%. 1 to 5 is at 33%. 6 to 10, 20%. 10 plus, 0%. I thought that was really interesting. I thought for sure there would be a few people who voted who had 10 plus, but apparently not. I fall into the 0 range right now, although I got into touch with an old friend of mine from high school who is currently a tattoo artist, Aaron Strobin. I don't remember if he has his own. Okay, yeah, it looks like he has his own tattoo page. A Real Otaku Tattoos. He has some really good work, and during high school he was like a big brother to me. I actually went and hung out with him and his wife after his wedding. We all went to Lagoon, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, he was like a big brother to me because I'm the oldest in the family, so I didn't have a big brother. And I think it would be really cool to get tattooed by him. So stay tuned. I also have a hard time committing to tattoos. It's permanent. And for me, there are people who, for me personally, I want my tattoos to have meaning. Like I want every single one to mean something. So I know there are some people who don't view it that way. Some people just like a design and they want it, and that's completely cool. But for me, I want everything to be personal and unique. So yeah, that's how many tattoos I have. And then the final one is a would you rather. Would you rather know the future, read minds, unlimited money glitch, or teleportation? Know the future got 0%, which is interesting. 14% said they would like to read minds. 29% is the unlimited money glitch, and teleportation 57%. I can understand why people don't want to know the future. For me, out of those 4 options, it just seemed like, and also you can't change the future if you know it. I wouldn't like that. Yeah, I don't know. I like to live days one at a time. I do some planning occasionally, but I like to be spontaneous and just go day by day. So that's part of the reason why read minds. To me, this one, I guess it depends on if you like automatically read people's minds or if you can choose to read people's minds. I think for me, this was more of a morality one. I personally wouldn't pick this one because I think it would be morally intrusive to know what someone's thinking all the time or be able to. I don't know. I would feel weird if people knew what I was thinking all the time. So yeah, that one's just morally not for me. Unlimited money glitch. Now this one is definitely one of the more tempting ones because if you have unlimited money, you can do anything. So, that one's tempting for sure. Yeah, that would be nice. But also, at what point do you have too much money where you can't really do anything with it? Because eventually, if you have all the money in the world, and then all that money will lose its value, and you can give all that money away. You can try to solve world hunger, but then your resources, the world's resources, get drained. And I don't know. It would be nice to do it for your own gain. Because that's the thing that is hard. Like if you can have unlimited money and you're like, oh, I'll give all the money to every single poor person on earth. Then all of a sudden, there are people who aren't good. I don't know. It's just that one is also morally not, you can do stuff, you basically, that makes it so you can do stuff for yourself, which is great for your family. And then people will also call you selfish for not sharing with everyone else. So, that one isn't my choice either. And I would have to agree with teleportation. It'd be nice. You just can go anywhere at any time. You will never be late to anything. You can go to all your favorite places. You can travel anywhere across the world. If you're in trouble, you can just get out. So yeah, I can see why this is the most popular choice, and I believe I would choose it as well. So there you go. This has been a long episode of you getting to know me a little bit better, getting to know the host who hides behind a microphone. No. I'm excited for things coming to this podcast. Looks like I'm going to have to do a future episode about my worst dates. That one I think would be fun to have a guest for. So we'll see who I can get as a guest for that one. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to all the questions at this point. Let's see. Yeah, at this point, these are all the questions that have been asked. So I'm going to delete that so no one else asks any more questions. Oh, sorry, something weird just happened. Okay, we're still good. Hopefully you got to know me a little bit better, and I would like to get to know you guys as well. So if you have any answers to those questions below, or if you have any thoughts on the polls that I gave out, let me know, because I want to try to get to know you guys as well as you guys know me. And thanks again for listening. Stay tuned for some updates. Season 1 of this podcast is either coming to a close with this episode or the next one. So watch out for season 2. I have some exciting things in the works. Of course, I don't really know when season 2 is going to come out or anything like that yet, because like I mentioned before with my with my podcast advice, I'm not a great planner when it comes to this, especially when I don't have a lot of time. I got to just do this when I have time. Just stay tuned for when the season 2 drops. It'll probably be after our baby's here at some point. But thanks again for taking the time to listen. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to like, subscribe, follow. It's available on YouTube and Spotify, so check out either one if you'd like to. I appreciate every single one of you. This has been Storytime with Chris.